September 2025, Atlantic Ocean. The sun barely rises over the horizon, painting the calm Atlantic in shades of gold and grey. But beneath this serene surface, something massive is moving. Fleets of ships, hundreds of aircraft, and thousands of troops are en route across 3,000 miles of ocean. Operation Iron Reprisal has begun. NATO has launched a full-scale strike on the United States. 31 allied nations are working together, trying to breach the most heavily defended homeland on Earth. It didn't start with a single gunshot. It started with a fracture the US had withdrawn from NATO, cutting off all access to shared intelligence, satellites, and GPS. Suddenly, Europe's most advanced forces were flying blind. The very systems they had relied on for decades, American satellites, live drone feeds, logistics networks, were gone. Now, they must rely on their own infrastructure and test it in a real conflict. The mission seems simple on paper: force a US surrender without nukes, without leveling cities. Speed, precision, and pressure are the objectives. NATO gives a 96 hours warning. Evacuation protocols go active. Troops mobilize. Entire naval groups deploy under full radio silence. Cargo ships, tankers, amphibious assault vessels all stretch across the Atlantic, moving like a coordinated machine. But almost immediately, it becomes clear. Without US support, NATO is blind. GPS is unreliable. Europe's Galileo system is slower, easier to jam, never tested under real combat conditions. F-35s and Blackhawks still rely on American parts and software. Every sortie, every flight, every launch strains their resources. Staging begins. Greenland, Iceland, the Azores, and Canada see troops and equipment moving into remote airstrips. Convoys stretch for miles. The invasion is split into 3 thrusts. 1. Virginia coast. Main landing force targets Naval Station Norfolk, the largest naval base in the world. 2. Florida Panhandle. Secondary force aims to capture Eglin Air Force Base, split U.S. coastal defense. 3. Canada to Maine and Michigan. European troops deployed under joint training programs move south to pressure northern states. Convoys form in the Atlantic. NATO destroyers, tankers, and amphibious assault ships escort cargo vessels. Navigation relies on Galileo and national satellites. ISR intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance is degraded. Missile strikes are slower, less accurate. Coordination slips. And the clock is ticking. Before sunrise, the first explosions hit the US East Coast. Cruise missiles slam into air bases from Virginia to Georgia. RAF Typhoons and French Rafales escort paratroopers onto highways. They land behind a wave of missile strikes, creating 30 minutes of chaos, but US jets respond immediately.
Virginia, USA. Patriot missile batteries fire on incoming missiles. Aegis destroyers target threats offshore. F-22 Raptors streak through the sky, intercepting NATO jets. The 82nd Airborne locks down key roads. The 101st Airborne lifts out from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Marines deploy mobile anti-ship missiles along the coast. Despite bravery, NATO suffers heavy losses. One French ship falls behind. A U.S. submarine targets it silently, hundreds of troops never reaching the beach. Amphibious transports take hits. Armor is stopped before it rolls. B-1 bombers from Texas launch long-range missiles into the convoy. NATO's advance falters. The U.S. uses its interior lines to perfection. Roads, rails, and infrastructure allow rapid troop movement. Supply chains flow. Bridges are destroyed to slow invaders. Rivers are flooded. Terrain favors the defenders. NATO's reliance on exposed convoys and ports becomes a weakness. The Atlantic becomes a battlefield. U.S. submarines glide silently. Inside USS South Dakota, sonar operators track ships with deadly precision. Contact bearing 093. Multiple vessels. A sonar tech whispers. Prepare torpedoes 1 through 4. Silent running, the captain orders. Explosions rip through the ocean. Transport ships break in half. Alarms scream across NATO fleets. Helicopters scramble but find nothing. They are fighting an enemy they cannot see. Night falls. Fog rolls in. B-1 bombers fly low, releasing stealth missiles that skim the water and strike targets precisely. Explosions light up the darkness. Norwegian and German soldiers jump into freezing water. Survival replaces strategy. On land, Virginia, Florida, and NATO pushes inland. Drones scan the skies. Mobile SA misfire into the night. Sparks rain over highways. Civilians flee. Social media spreads panic and misinformation. Highways clog. Gas stations overflow. Fear spreads. but so does determination. Police, National Guard, and civilians coordinate to protect towns. Firefighters rescue trapped families. Engineers repair damaged power lines. The U.S. homeland is not collapsing, it is mobilizing. American Airbus pilots run toward aircraft as sirens blare. Mechanics load missiles. Officers shout coordinates. Every airbase functions like a perfectly tuned machine. A young pilot, call sign Falcon 2, climbs into his F-2. He glances at a picture of his wife and daughter taped inside his cockpit. Come home, no matter what. He whispers. Engines ignite. He rockets into the sky, intercepting NATO aircraft moving inland. Cyber warfare. NATO strikes infrastructure. GPS is spoofed. Drones veer off course. Power grids glitch. Rail systems fail. Emergency services are overwhelmed. Banks stall. Panic spreads. But the U.S. Cyber Command has practiced this scenario countless times. Networks are isolated. Backup satellites provide accurate data. Military communications switch to dark fiber and hardened lines. NATO's digital advantage collapses. U.S. missiles find every hiding NATO unit. Fuel depots erupt. Artillery is destroyed mid-reload. Columns stall in exposed terrain. The cyber war, meant to give NATO an edge, accelerates their collapse. Interior lines and geographic virgin as marshy coastline slows armor. Appalachians block inland movement. The Midwest's open plains allow U.S. bombers and drones to hunt exposed columns. The U.S. moves faster, fights closer, and resupplies easier. NATO depends on limited ports, exposed convoys, and slow coordination. Every loss compounds. By day 4, U.S. submarines sink several cargo ships per night. Psychological fatigue spreads. Crews abandon tankers mid-ocean. Supply chains slow to a trickle. NATO holds fragmented positions near Norfolk, Florida, and the Canadian border, but deep water ports remain out of reach. Counteroffensive. Every full U.S. divisions, 1st Cavalry, 3rd Infantry, 1st Armored, surge toward Norfolk. The 82nd Airborne secures the northern flank. Marines dig in across the south. HIMARS rockets batter NATO rear positions. Apache helicopters ocean up remaining pockets. Mechanized battles erupt. French Leclerc and German Leopard to tanks push hard. British paratroopers attempt to retreat to the sea. Air support is gone. Communication lines are jammed. Logistics fail. NATO troops are trapped. Beachheads collapse. Florida is reclaimed. Northern pushes withdraw. Hundreds of NATO soldiers captured or surrendered. At sea, HMS Prince of Wales is hit by a missile. Charles de Gaulle is disabled by drone strikes. Remaining NATO ships retreat. U.S. submarines chase them across the Atlantic. The invasion is over. The United States holds the field decisively. NATO's reliance on American tech backfires. Supply lines fail. Geography and strategy finish the job. E&D. Was a NATO victory possible? Maybe, but only with quick port seizures, neutralization of U.S. air power, and forced surrender within a week. Instead, their fleet, command, and morale collapsed. The U.S. victory is complete, a combination of preparation, technology, geography, and human resilience. The Atlantic, the skies, and the homeland all remain under U.S. control. Operation Iron Reprisal becomes a lesson in overreach, reliance on allied systems, and the strength of defensive planning.